Welcome to the Burnout to Lit Up podcast. I am your host, Erica Del Pozo, occupational therapist, certified health coach, CEO and founder of Joy Energy Time, Miami Girl, and Pineapple Lover. In this podcast, we provide the resources on how to deal with stress, burnout, and anxiety, how to get energized, find true satisfaction and alignment in your life, and more. You will learn how to slay your burnout beast and go from burnt out to a lit up life. Let's do this. Welcome to episode 7 of the Burnout to Lit Up podcast. Today I will be going into some juicy stuff about our brains, fear versus anxiety, and the stimuli we're bombarded with that causes us to develop those responses, otherwise known as the news and social media. We're all guilty of spending a little too much time on our phones and devices. Well, at least most of us are. It's my big action step in 2018 to limit the amount of time I passively spend on social media and really focus on using it for business purposes. Today's fun fact. I have an alarm clock in my bedroom and leave my phone charging in the office. So once I'm in bed and when I wake up, I'm not starting and ending my day with a phone. I'm not leaving the last impression or the first impression of my day to be bombarded with my newsfeed. We will go into one of my favorite tips later in the episode, as well as one surprising fact about how fear has drastically changed over the last century. You do not want to miss this one. Almost every second of every day, our brain is bombarded by way too much info than we can possibly process. What contributes to our survival as a species is all that visual data and auditory data being funneled to a part of your brain called the amygdala. Oh my, how I just love the amygdala. The amygdala is our danger detector. It warns us of danger. It literally goes through a scanning process and filters any threats from our environment and will put us in fight or flight mode, which was extremely helpful back in the day when a lion approached our caves or wherever we were. And if we saw a shadow in the distance or heard a little sound, it could have been the wind, or a small animal, but on the off chance that that was a lion, the amygdala played its role in saving your life. Today, our tigers and lions and bears, are the negative stories we see in the news and social media. Your attention will be drawn to negative news, and perhaps 90% of the news we receive is negative for that reason, because it keeps our attention. According to Daniel Kahneman, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but he is an Israeli-American psychologist and 2002 winner of the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences. So according to him, we have a negativity bias, which means that we give negative details way more attention than positive ones. The confirmation bias is our tendency to selectively extract information that reaffirms our pre-existing notions, which are typically negative. So it's kind of like a negativity cycle. Cue in the oh-so-beloved amygdala that goes off because of the dangers we perceive in today's world from the media. Just think about all the news we hear about, which gives people great anxiety. The amygdala can always be turned on high alert and thus lets more negative news come in. So we do not want that. We do not want our amygdala to be always turned on high alert. We're not looking for lions. So our brain wants to keep us alive. That's a pretty good goal, right? So that's why it's so easy for us to just flip a switch to act out in to just act out based on that anxiety that you read or hear about on the news. So, okay, I keep saying anxiety. Let's talk about anxiety and fear and the amygdala. It kind of sounds like a hot mess, doesn't it? Many believe that the amygdala, which is just a tiny little almond-shaped region deep in each hemisphere of the brain, is also the home of emotional responses, specifically fear, and that it triggers the emotional brain before the logical brain has a chance to stop it. When I see this unfold, it's people being reactive, mainly on social media. A part of the amygdala, known as the lateral amygdala, goes through stimuli coming in from the outside world, primarily looking for threats. And if it senses a threat, then the neurons start firing, signaling the central amygdala to activate a defense response in the body. This whole process is unconscious. It's an unconscious physiological response, which you are familiar with. The perspiration, increased heart rate, shortness of breath, and the behavioral reaction, the freeze, the fight, or the flight. So those are all automatic. They're not emotional. According to Joseph Ledoux, I have to say it French like that, okay? It looks French. Joseph Ledoux, American neuroscientist, fear is actually experienced in the conscious mind or the cerebral cortex as an emotion. That's where we piece together experiences and label it as an emotion. Or we perhaps categorize it with other experiences that feel similar. Ledoux, okay, I can't stop saying it like that. I'm pretty sure that's how you would say it in French. He says that people will confuse fear for anxiety. Fear is a response to a present threat, whereas anxiety is a response to something that hasn't happened or may never happen. It's an experience of uncertainty. Holy moly. Then I know so many people that just radiate utter anxiety about every little thing in the world. Things that will probably never happen. But the amygdala in these people has just been switched on and left on. Can you imagine being around someone that perpetuates this anxiety all the time? You just feel like shouting, okay, listen, Linda, listen. Time to shut off that amygdala. So to break it down for you, if someone pulls out a gun at a concert you're attending, that's fear. But if you're at a concert and you're worried that a shooting attack could occur, that's anxiety. There are countless examples from psychological research of just how bad we are at decision making and responding more from an emotional point of view than responding to actual facts. According to this resource, Why We're Living in an Age of Fear, an article in the Rolling Stones by Neil Strauss, published in October of 2016, there was a 1993 study that demonstrated people were willing to pay more for flight insurance to protect them from terrorism than they were to pay for flight insurance that covered all causes. It doesn't really help either that in the past few years, we are in a sense, we're plagued with this extreme cycle of news omnipresence, which places value on shareability over accuracy. The news comes to us. We don't have to turn on the TV or radio anymore. Between our phones and browsers, most of us are plugged into a nonstop news feed with different opinions and stories and headlines and this and that cater to our specific interests and anxieties. According to the sociologist Margie Kerr from University of Pittsburgh and author, we are more fearful now than we were 150 years ago. She mainly faults that to the easy availability to the news, which makes us feel more emotionally charged. we receive notifications on our phone as soon as these disasters occur, which leads to a false sense of involvement. So listen to this. If you haven't been listening, then you're going to want to pay attention now. According to Kerr, the more we see or are exposed to these dramatized and traumatic events, the more common we believe them to be. So that goes back to the confirmation basis. Kerr quotes, "We see a shooting on the news, and it sensitizes us to pay extra attention to shootings whenever they happen in the future, which confirms the idea that it's a big problem. Even with dramas, people are bad at remembering what's real. There have been many studies done where, after seeing a false and true statement, the next day, someone can't remember which was real and which was fake. Studies have correlated the hours of news consumption with reported levels of anxiety and fear of specific people." End quote. Boom. She totally dropped the mic. That's totally real. That is a part of our atmosphere now in this day and age, right? Over time, the exposure of anxieties can change your brain. They can change your brain. So the first way in which this can occur is that the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, which are the logical thinking and memory forming parts of your brain, respectively, can start shutting down and wither. The amygdala gets bigger. According to Ledoux, in the process, what attributes to this, the things that attribute to conscious decision making, risk taking, exploratory activity, and logical thinking are adversely affected. So the second way your brain can change is that anxiety turns into fear. Part of threat detection is learning, and the brain can create a false correlation when a stimulus that's not actually a threat activates the body's threat response system. Let's say you're somewhere, you're at the movies, wherever, and you're anxious about Islamic terrorist attacks. You see a Middle Eastern man with a bag, and suddenly he unzips the bag and pulls out an umbrella. But it happens so quickly that you think it's a gun and you begin to freak out. Not only is that fear, but you may have just changed your brain circuitry. I see and I feel this occurring all the time. Some people get anxieties about traveling and don't want to travel anymore. I mean, my argument to that is that anything can happen anywhere, you know? So you must be thinking, okay, I'm going to have to delete my Facebook and Instagram and delete everything off my phone and live in a cave for the rest of my life. But all of this doesn't mean that we should completely unplug, live in blissful ignorance, and just accept all these evil things in the world like terrorism, murder, racism, sexism, abuse, poverty, human right violations, and so on. All the problems in the world. One instance of any of these is too much, and it doesn't excuse the fact that the growth in technology has made it possible for some dark people in the world to cause such terrible acts. Our goal in moving forward should be to tease out the real threats and find a balance where we are not terrified that we're making bad decisions, but also not so oblivious that we aren't protecting ourselves either. What a fine line that is, my friends. I think the bottom line here is that we need to not let our amygdala do all the work. We need to stop and approach issues with a clear and logical head without fear and anxiety driving our decisions, and have compassion. That's not just for the people that we agree with. We need compassion for everyone. I have a proposal for you. What if you could learn about and go on a social media diet while increasing your happiness and decreasing your stress? a life where you're in control of your stress and burnout by adding in evidence-based interventions that are fun, like play and going on a social media diet. This episode is brought to you by my online mini course, Revamp Your Joy. And it's a perfect jumpstart for looking at not just the what, but the how. How to protect your mental energy and actually learn about the surprising things that drain you throughout the day, which one of them you learned today about being too plugged in, the things that I experienced firsthand that caused my anxiety and stress. This is such a fun mini course because I get to show you how to explore the impact of play and concepts of flow and how to find occupations that add flow and meaning into your life. Tackle your Sunday night scaries so you can live in peace. Set boundaries in your life on how to maximize your joy and decrease the stress signals in your brain. Find your Just Right challenge, learn about what that is, and how to put that into action so you can not suffer from unsuccessful resolutions you make at the beginning of the year, but have a solid and real approach and plenty more. It's a big bang for your buck, but if you're ready to do something about your stress and burnout and in seriously fun, refreshing ways, then Revamp Your Joy is perfect for you. You can visit joyenergytime.com and go to the courses tab. Then go to mini courses and you will see Revamp Your Joy there. Information for Revamp Your Joy is also in the show notes. Thanks for listening. If you want more, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Also, share this episode with your friends and I would be so grateful. If you feel inspired, leave a review on iTunes with an honest comment and or what you'd like to hear more of so you can help me out on my journey in delivering meaningful content. Thanks, mis amores.